Hi, I'm Maggie.
I'm Reid.
In this episode, we are going to talk about business and everything about running your own business, running your own chiropractic business, all the ups, all the downs, and some work-life balance that goes along with it.
The struggles, the fun, the funny, the everything in between. So hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, so we both own our own businesses, but I have a different take than you do because
You hate where you work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I rent my space from you.
Yeah.
But I also kind of get to use you in a way where I use the Minnesota Movement umbrella for my brand as well. So why did you take that approach?
Tax evasion is the biggest part.
Easily.
No. So what Maggie's saying is essentially what we have is like a sublease situation, and we call it an independent contractor. In school, like I don't know what you learned in school, but like they talk about like never enter an independent contractorship.
But they say don't enter an independent contractorship, but they say you should enter an office share. But they're the same thing.
They're not. What we have is an office share.
Yes.
Like I call it an independent contractorship because you're independent. You can do whatever the heck you want. Aside from you paying me rent every month, there's really nothing in your contract that says you have to do or can't do anything, right? So what you're saying about working under the umbrella of Minnesota Movement is an ask. Like if you want to, you can. And that's more of like a verbal agreement kind of thing. Nothing in your contract says that you have to. It does say something of like, it's suggested just because it's a win-win situation. So with that independent contractorship, you pay me rent. If you want to make $1 million a month, you can make $1 million a month. It doesn't matter how many patients you see, you still pay the same amount of rent.
Yep.
Where independent contractorships do get fishy, and like the delineation between like a office share and an independent contractorship is where, like, let's say you make 10 grand this month, you pay me 50% of that 10 grand up to $2,000. And then after $2,000, you pay me 40% up to $6,000. And after $6,000 of net, then you pay me whatever, 30% on that. Like that's where things get like, you're essentially an employee at that point.
Yep.
And that's also where like you have your own EHR software, you have your own billing software, you have your own newsletter, like you manage everything. We try to make a clear distinction between your LLC, my LLC, and then just the allowance to use the space, to have equipment, to have marketing allowance, to have social media allowance and those kind of things. That's more of like a verbal, it is in the contract, but it is more of a verbal ask versus policy kind of thing. The reason I chose that is because I worked under a more so fishy independent contractorship where I was the independent contractor. That was a percentage based thing. And I started looking at it. I'm like, I'm taking home decent money at this point, 4 years in or whatever it was, but I'm also paying them 3 times their overhead with just me. Just my input was getting 3 times their overhead. And I was like, I don't like that. Like, and started building a little animosity and things like that. So the office share rent structure, again, like it allows for as you've found out in a year and a half now, like you're not making $1 million a year or month, but like there is no ceiling in that regards. If you want to work 80 hours, you can. If you want to work 20 hours, you can. So that's kind of why I chose that. The other side of it, I joked about tax evasion, is it's not evading taxes, but employees, I have to pay taxes on that. And like, I don't want to pay payroll. I don't want to pay your taxes for you. Plus, like, I am so ADHD minded, and like, my leadership strategies, but my leadership is not good at making sure that you're busy. Like, I try my best. I try to support and help all the independent contractors and students and mentees and things like that. But I can't guarantee that your book is going to be full.
No.
And that's where, like, if I was paying an employee, what's the going rate for an associate employee right now?
It depends.
Like 70K, let's say.
Not even less. But so like, I still would not be pulling that in.
Right. But if I was, and that's where, like, if I was paying somebody 70K and they weren't netting 70K, that's a money loss for me. Like, why would I do that? So with that, like, idea of independent contractorship, I think we kind of already brought up the idea of struggles. And like, I think the independent contractorship is a win-win situation. If I go out and market this weekend, but you're up at your cabin, and I go out and I have everybody's business cards there, the struggle of you having to do that, like, it's mitigated a little bit because it's a rising tide lifts all ships. They might meet me and be like, oh, this sounds like a cool idea, but I really want to see a female provider.
Yep.
They can look on our website, even though they met me, talked to me, had a good rapport, first impression of me.
Yep.
But they see a female provider, that's great. But that brings in like the struggles of practice, is like you're always having to chase that next thing. And we joked about, like, last time we talked, I think running a business is like running a sprint without knowing where the finish line is. Like, you're just always chasing that next thing. I mean, what have your struggles been in the last year and a half?
Just like getting consistency.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to, like, I guess not easy is a poor term. It's easy to get people in the door, but how do you build off of those people that you get in initially? How do you get referrals?
Well,
how do you get them to want to keep coming back once they get better?
I think switching into like our view of treatment, it's especially hard to get people to keep coming back and get referrals and do that, because we're trying not to see people.
Yeah.
Like, when somebody comes in our door, I want them out of my door forever, as long as possible, as fast as possible. Like,
Yeah.
if I can get somebody better in one visit, we don't do that all the time. We're not magicians. That's awesome. I'm happy about that. Like, if I reach out to them and they're like, no, I'm doing great, I'm like, phenomenal.
Yeah.
But that means I'm not going to make money. But then, so that's one side of our treatment strategy and philosophy. The second side is like, we don't want to see people 3 times a week. Like, our treatment visits are laid out anywhere from 20 minutes to 60 minutes, sometimes 90 minutes. Like, when we're spending that much time once a week, we don't need to see you 3 times a week. So then when they're only coming back every other week, every 3 weeks, every month, like, you do end up with those slow weeks.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a struggle. And that's where my advocacy on that is, like, I've talked to you about this all the time, the 3 buckets approach. Like, you're going to have your new patients. That's one bucket. Like, where those patients come from, that could be a different bucket conversation. You have your new patients coming in. That's great.
Yep.
Getting them in the door, I would argue, is actually harder than
probably.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Sometimes getting people in the door is hard.
It is.
The cool thing about the way we work is, like, once people come in the door, they're like, whoa, this is different.
Yep.
And then it kind of sticks. But so that's one bucket, is new patients. Second bucket is existing patients, acute care. You are seeing them once a week. You are seeing them potentially twice a week or once every other week. And that's kind of a reoccurring thing. The third bucket is the hardest bucket for you right now. And I bring this up with you all the time, is like the patients you haven't seen for 6 years, 7 years, 8 months, whatever it is, like a longer time, that have a new injury, or they have a friend that they might have brought up the first time you met, like, oh, my husband wants to come in, or should come in and see you, because it's always pushing, should come in and see you, but like they have that referral that finally hits a year later, 2 years later. And that's where just, building the idea of community versus like just your provider kind of thing. And like, not flirting with the lines of ethics and things like that wise, but like really being a cool place and a cool person to come see. That's where when people get injured 2 years later, they want to come back and see you because you did a good job that first time and you're a cool person. So
something else that can be hard, I guess, right now for me is just the comparison game to anyone else, or like any of my friends who aren't chiropractors and aren't working this job. They're making money. Their money's consistent.
Yeah.
They get PTO.
Yeah.
I don't get PTO. If I take time off, I'm not making any money during that time. Or like my chiropractor friends who took associateships, they're getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
Like their ceiling is a lot lower than mine.
Yeah.
For potential.
Their safety is a lot higher.
But they have safety. They have security.
Yeah.
They also have PTO.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you get around not?
Like, this quote's been thrown around and messed up. So like somebody probably quoted this once a long time ago, and I've heard it from 1,000 other people since. But like, if I were to give you a job offer with a high ceiling, you could potentially make $1 million a year. But you get no PTO, right? Your hours suck. Your work-life balance sucks. You get no health insurance paid for by you. You have no match 401k, Roth IRA, anything like that. Would you take it? Like, the answer is no for most people. But we have that job.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not physically in this building seeing a patient, I'm not getting paid. Mm-hmm. And like, that's a hard crumb to swallow sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say cookie to swallow. Like, it's a hard crumb. But I think that's where it takes like a weird mindset to want that. And like, that's what I think we're good at. That kind of circles into like that work-life balance. Like, how do you find within those struggles, like, how do you find your best work-life balance?
I don't have a good work-life balance.
Go on, Maggie. Tell me about your issues with work-life balance.
like to fill my time, and if I have any stagnant time, I feel like I'm not being productive and I'm not doing the right things. So even if I'm not working, or even if I don't have patients, or I'm having a slow week, something is going on, and I'm doing something.
Like what?
Maybe working at Orange Theory more.
Yeah.
Like I'm picking up more shifts. If I see I don't have patients on the schedule, I'm probably going to pick up some shifts
But
of
I would
coaching.
say like that's the hard part of, like, I know we're talking work-life balance, but like that also circles into a struggle of being a business owner that is, and we're appointment only too.
Yeah.
Like there are no walk-ins. We do have standardized hours, but like if I'm sitting here today, for example, and I'm done at 2:00, or my last patient's at 2:00, but I'm open until 6. Like, do I leave? Do I stick around? Maybe somebody comes in. Do I get some busy work done? And like, if it's the end of the day, it's almost easier to like, all right, I'm just gonna block off the rest of my day and go home, pick my kids up early, go for a bike ride, go to the golf course, whatever it is. If it's the morning, like I'm sitting there in the morning, I don't want to go for a run or something like that, because I'm like, well, what if somebody gets on in 30 minutes and I got to bus to the office? Like, and I have like a 2-hour buffer there where nobody can book. They'd have to contact me, kind of thing. But like, you almost kind of shoot yourself in the foot of enjoying the off time when it's forced, because you don't know if is it really off time.
Yeah. And you're never relaxed during those days, because I'm like, I have to be by my computer. I have to be by my phone in case someone calls me, in case someone books on in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So even if it's a 2-hour buffer,
like if you're running, you still got to shower.
I still have to get ready.
And like,
I have to find a place to send my dog if I'm going to be gone for a while. Like there are things that have to be done. So you're not relaxed.
No. You're always, constantly.
So it's like there is no balance, which is fine. Or like forcing myself to take time off when it doesn't feel comfortable. Like right now, it doesn't feel comfortable to take time off, or like go away for a weekend and block my schedule. But
that's where like
sometimes you need to.
I was gonna say, like, sometimes you need to, and like when you realize, like with those ebb and flows, like, oh, I've had 2 busy weeks. Like, I don't want to say like next week is gonna not be as busy, but like sometimes you kind of find those patterns. And like, obviously I'm a little bit further along in the career path than you are, but like forcefully taking those vacations, even if it's just a Friday off and a 3-day vacation kind of thing, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or if it's a full week, like it's hard, again, struggle with practice. Like it's hard while you're on that week-long vacation to think, I'm not making any money this week and I'm spending all this money on vacation to do this thing. Like a blocked work-life balance has been the best way that I see that fitting. Ever since I started, I've always blocked off, I want to go snowboarding, I want to go golfing, I want to go mountain biking. Like it's been too long. This is a passion of mine that I want to procure and keep, because otherwise I'll lose it and I'll get to that burnout stage. Like I've always blocked off 2 hours here, and then I might not do it for another 3 weeks or a month or whatever it is. But I definitely try to block off the little things. Sometimes that even means like just embracing an hour before your next patient kind of thing. Like there's nothing wrong with watching a Netflix show or whatever, that reading a book or whatever it is. Like finding that little bit of time that you can, in like, moral of the story is we don't have a good work-life balance.
Oh, I've started bringing my Kindle though.
Yeah, there you go.
But I have like a 2-hour break. I can do an hour of work and then a little hour of reading. I
always fear like the patient showing up, like, oh, next patient's in an hour. And like I'll set a timer on my phone for like 42 minutes, or on my watch for 42 minutes. I'm like, what if they show up 18 minutes early? Like it never happens.
What if they do?
What if they do? And then like
they catch you watching a show.
They catch you watching a show. Usually they catch me doing my own mobility stuff or whatever it is. I don't know. It's better than catching you picking your nose. But with all these struggles, I feel like we need a good uplifting topic. What's your least favorite part of your job?
So like
real uplifting topic.
Taking notes.
Taking notes. Okay.
Because I don't process little things myth, that way.
Even though we are cash based, we still have to take notes, just as good as any insurance based provider does, and people forget that. But
it's just a hassle.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of least favorite parts of the job, but like my least favorite part of the job is not necessarily taking notes, but all the things that we do that we don't get paid for, that are necessary to get paid. Like, so we don't get paid to take notes. We don't get paid to market, but like we have to do these things in order to see that patient, help that patient, get paid for that patient. inspire the community, be a part of that empowerment and all the fun things that we do care about and I'm passionate about. I think the back end side of things is easily the answer. Like website SEO, blog stuff. You owe me like 1,000 blogs.
I do owe you 1,000 blogs. I don't like writing blogs.
That's what ChatGPT is for, you guys.
I just don't.
But yeah, all the back end stuff is definitely not the sexy part of it, but it's necessary. And that's where like my mindset in the last 6 months has been to like try to, I mean, you hear about this with like sports, like hockey and everything. Like the best player on any team is the one who loves to practice. Like they also have to have a love for the game and a love for competition and get that like swaggy, angry side of them too. But like they're the ones who love to practice the monotonous things. And like in clinical practice, it's kind of the same thing. So I've tried to have that little mindset shift, but it's much easier said than done. I think we both agree. Least favorite part of the job is not the clinical side, but the admin side. What's your least favorite part of the clinical side?
I am a really like by the book type A person.
Is it your resting bitch face?
Yeah, that's it. People think I'm mean.
My least favorite part is people think I'm a jerk, but I'm really nice.
People think I'm so rude.
Continue.
I think I'm really like type A by the book. If someone tells me to do something, I'm probably going to do it.
Okay.
So if I'm telling someone to do something that I know, like as a provider, will get them better, will help their issue that they're having. And they're just like, oh, whatever.
Or
I don't even care if you don't do your exercises, but if you like, whatever, don't do your exercises, come in more. That's fine. But it's like, I will give you this one tool. Like maybe try and get more sleep, or maybe
like the low hanging fruit.
Like, can you like write a note every time you're in pain so that next time you come in, we know what kind of pain it is. If you're coming in every single week and you don't know how to explain your pain, or you don't know when it's flaring up, take a note. And it's just, you won't do that. Like it's the easiest things. Like I'm not even asking you to sit down and do mobility. Like try to get off your phone a little bit earlier so your sleep is better.
And like can't. Well, like
you just won't. Like what?
Especially when they say like, oh, that's not possible. It's like, well, no, everything's possible. Like while you're brushing your teeth, do 10 calf raises. I don't know, like whatever it is. And they're like, well, no, that's too much. It's like, no, it's not. Like it's just not a priority for
Or my runners who I'm becoming really, really into. I think you need to warm up before you run. And not use your first mile as a warm up. And maybe that's a hot take for runners. But it depends on your mileage. So if I'm going to run 6 miles, I probably shouldn't just go out and run 6 miles. And I know that. I still do it. However, if I'm nursing an injury, I'm not going to miss that warm up. Which most of the people I'm seeing are nursing an injury. So when I say, please do a 2-minute warm up, 10 calf raises, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Get out of your car. I have a video on my Instagram. Follow it along. And go run.
Which is sent to you and it's readily
available. And you can
available.
do it with your dog attached to you, because that's how I filmed it. And it's chaotic and it's crazy. But you get calf raises, tibia anterior raises, and glute. Why aren't we doing that?
The crazy thing is like, even if they just opened that and watched that and still did their run, right? Like the intent behind it, like that little subconscious thought behind, oh, at least I watched Maggie's video. They don't even have to participate. Like, I'm a huge research nerd, but like I've looked at a lot of this stuff. Like if you can layer intent behind what you're about to do, like
you're going to feel better.
You're going to feel better. You're going to use things differently.
I've said to people, sit in your car and squeeze your glutes 5 times before you get out and go run. That's going to do more for you than going out and running without doing anything.
And it's just that.
And I know that because when I run, I feel a difference. Even if I squeeze my glutes 4 times.
Not 5 times?
It could be 2.
Okay.
Like it could be once, and that's going to make a difference compared to doing nothing. So I don't understand. That drives me nuts.
I think that's where like, I mean, I have a whole course on this, but like home exercise compliance and like patient education compliance is crappy. And that's like across the board. Like if we ask 1,000 providers, like, how's your patient compliance? Like most people would laugh first, like, sucks. I think that's hard because we do a good job of it. And as much as we're complaining about it right now, like our compliance is still better than a lot of providers, a lot better.
I have really good compliance.
And that's because we actually take that time to educate, like, this is why squeezing your glutes 5 times is going to do that. This is what you'll feel like. you remember that one time you did it and you felt this way, and then the 7 other times you didn't do it and you felt that way? Like, we get that little proof in the pudding, or that aha moment. So I think to uptick compliance, like, communication sucks. Like, as much as we're chiropractors, we're in sales, we're in marketing, we're in service industry 101 and communication 101. Like, communication is hard when it's foreign to us. Like, I'm an introvert by nature, and like, being here, I have to be an extrovert all the time and get people jacked up about foot exercises or neck exercises and like these minuscule things. But there's still muscles and tissues. And like, I think when we can inspire them with that curiosity, it does get better. But I would absolutely agree. My least favorite part clinically is patient communication, and almost even like you were saying, like, writing down what day they felt pain. Like, all right, so how does this feel? And they're like, well, it doesn't hurt. I'm like, well, great. Like, as I'm taking you through a rehab or a test or whatever it is, like, do you feel engagement? Do you feel an itch? Do you feel a twinge? Do you feel sweaty? Do you feel nervous? Does this feel confident? Does it feel awkward? Like, I care more about those things than the pain. And like, once they understand, like, when I ask, how does that feel, that I'm looking for all the answers, not just pain, it does open up a little bit. To be fair, I love 99.9% of my job clinically, treatment-wise. It's just the communication part that falters sometimes. I think that's like kind of last-ish topic here, like missing links in school. Like, the business side of things, we all know, like, they don't set us up well for business. They do a good job of like exposing us to successful businesses, which I think is the biggest missing link. We'll talk about that first. But like, one quick hit is like, we go through our internships, we go through our clinical rotations, we work on each other, and like, AKA patients who get it. Like, when you ask if we're working on each other in class, and it's like, oh, how does that feel? You're like, oh, it feels good. Like, okay, great, success. Next patient. Like,
well, when you're in school, you know exactly what
like
you want them to hear. So you're going to say, oh, I feel this type of release. Like,
I felt my suboccipital do this, and my C1.
My muscle feels so boggy today.
Yeah.
Like, no one is going to come in and say, I have a boggy muscle. No.
Yeah. The tonal blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So in that aspect, then, like, switching back to business, like, what do you think is, we already know your answer here, but what's the biggest missing link in school?
On the business side or the clinical side?
I guess both. I was expecting an answer out of you, but maybe
I don't have one. Oh. I probably did. I think it is sending you to a really successful clinic, like you brought up.
That's what I was expecting you to answer.
Well, I think in both senses, like clinically and business wise. Like, you're seeing someone out here making a ton of money, but also
and doing good work and
getting people better and just doing well.
Yeah.
And then you're seeing someone who knows how to talk to patients. So then I know in one of my internships, I was just thrown in with a patient and they're like, show them the exercises. And I had no idea how to verbalize it. So then I'm just looking back at my mentor the whole time. Yeah. Like, what am I supposed to say? She's like, just do it. And I'm like, and it worked, and that was helpful. But in the moment, I was like, no one taught me how to explain what someone who has no idea what their body is doing, how it should feel to move their body.
Trial by fire is the best way. And I think, like, even your first 3 months here.
But I don't think a lot of people get that.
Right. And so, like, what Maggie's saying is, like, usually the clinical rotations and internships go, like, most people who accept interns have to be in business, I think, for 3 years in Minnesota or 5 years or something like that.
3, and they have to see a certain amount of patients. Yep.
And so, AKA, there's successful providers and successful businesses. So, like, we go in there, and then, which we can learn from that. And it's obviously the positive side of it. Is like, you want to learn from somebody who's succeeding. The negative side of that is you graduate, whether you take an associateship, start your own business, independent contractor, whatever it is, and you expect that. And you're like, okay, this person was driving a Benz and was going golfing every weekend and taking their family on vacations, and I'm making $1,400 this year. Like, shoot. And it's just harder than that. So, like, it doesn't set us up well for realistic expectations is my biggest gripe. And that's where I think, like, I was fortunate that I worked in a couple of clinics with internships like that, but kind of similar to your rehab story. Like, my last internship, my only job there was to run their rehab. And they had, Xerox papers from the 1990s, the same exercises for almost every patient. Again, movement is movement. We'll talk about this later, different episode, but, like, they were still moving. They were still moving the right body part, and they were still layering some intent on it. But, like, I just wanted to revamp that and make it more tailored.
Yep.
And so, like, I got a lot of kick out of taking it and making it my own. And I got a little bit of at least 3 months of practice of like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm going to screw up on somebody else's dime kind of thing. If we had to name a fix there, I don't know what the fix would be. Like, school's job is to set you up to pass boards. It's not a business school. And that, I guess my fix would be less to like fix the school system and more to talk to the students. And this goes for ATC, PT, massage therapy, everything else, OT for that matter, chiros for sure, is like take it upon yourself as a student or new grad, or even somebody who's interested in these fields, to like learn that business acumen, learn that entrepreneurial mind of how to market, how to talk, how to do all these things. I'm looking over you and looking at Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, like reading a book. And as much as that book is like honed for, or not honed, whatever the word is, heralded is the word I was thinking of, to like the best book ever of how to create conversation. Like, there's other books out there, and in my opinion, that one's kind of outdated and sucks, but learning how to communicate with people is a big part that I think would be brushed up on. So,
or even just like getting a sales job.
Minor
sales. Like, I sold wedding dresses on Saturdays in grad school, and
like learning how to
I know how to sell myself. I know how to sell something. I know how to sit in a room with someone who's naked and have a conversation with them, putting them in dresses.
Which is basically our job, 101.
Yes.
Minus the naked part. Or dresses. Or really a lot of that. But yeah.
But I was like talking to someone to try and intern with them, and they said, you need to go to a high volume clinic before I'll let you intern with me, because you need to learn how to sell. I was like, I'm in sales. Like, no.
We can translate this. Yeah.
Come on. So I think, but that was like a really good point on his part, is when you're in a high volume clinic, you see so many people, you learn how to talk to them, you learn how to communicate. And that's a big skill to have.
Which, again, like, I think the school is doing its job very well.
So I think
schools, plural, right?
If you want to take it to that next step, you need to take it to that next step.
And take it upon yourself. Like, they're putting you in the hands of somebody who's successful. And if you're not learning some successes from that, like, that's your fault. The only fault on that is the realistic expectations of when you graduate. Like, the number of times I've had a student, like even students that I graduated with, like, I'm going to come out and I'm going to make $250,000 my first year. I'm like, no, you won't. Like, unless you're doing something fishy, you won't, right? It's just
you need to bring in people to talk to them and just say, you're going to be poor. You won't make money.
But you'll be happy.
You'll be fulfilled.
You'll be bordering on depression and anxiety, but happy at the same time.
You'll love it.
Welcome to adulthood. Yeah, it's fun.
Just reality needs to hit a little bit.
Bash them over the head with it. Yeah, perfect. Well, awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. There's going to be more of these things going on. Business, life, work, clinical treatment, fitness trends, mental health, what workouts Maggie did, how her half marathon training is going, because I think she's going to sign up for one. Spoiler.
Why wouldn't I?
Just put you on the, now it's set up.
Now I have to.
Do it. Yeah. We'll be having more of these, and hit us up if you guys have any questions, topics you want to talk about or have us talk about, and anything like that.